I
If there's a win, then go get it.
What I call winning. If your goal is to be a better mother, if your goal is to get promoted.
If there's a life, you've got to live it.
So don't hide your superpower. Don't drop your mic. Don't lower your voice. Don't hide who you are.
If there's prosperity, I want you to have it.
Then what we aspire to become is really inevitable and not impossible.
And if there is wisdom, I pray you receive it.
And so I think the companies did not do a SWOT analysis of what could go wrong or what must be true in order for them to hire 50 or
IoT or all of the technologies that happen that we try to tighten up and shore up. But there's other factors that happen in the anatomy of a breach, and that is the human factor. We have that same mindset about it's just a matter of time, it's not impossible, it's inevitable, then that will guide our walk, and we will walk boldly.
Always find a way to win.
When you have this growth mindset, you say, you know what, I've won before, I can win again. I have so much to offer, I have so much to gain. I am not done.
1, 2, 3. Okay, you heard from them. We gotta go. We gotta win. God bless you guys.
Hello, 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 everybody. Hello to family. Hello to friends. Hello to colleagues. Welcome to the Winner's Circle Live. My name is Daphne Jones, former Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer, currently a public board member, published author of the book Win When They Say You Won't. I'm the CEO of the Board Curators, and now I am the host of the Winner's Circle Live, which is a monthly podcast. So welcome to see you guys. These live broadcasts are where I seek to bring you great people who serve others, who inspire others, who lead others, whose mission will be to leave a legacy, and who always find a way to win. That's what being in the winner's circle is all about. In my book, Win When They Say You Won't, I share many other women's stories in addition to mine and their triumphs, because I believe that by ourselves we know a little, but when we tap into the resources, the experiences, and the wisdom of others, we can know everything. So we're not here by ourselves or for ourselves, and we can all enjoy the knowledge that others have and can also become our knowledge as well. So this series of monthly LinkedIn podcasts are curated to bring you topics that are most relevant to you and to us. And these podcasts will help us to learn more than we currently know and hopefully inspire us to do more than we already have. So a couple ground rules. First, when you are ready to have any questions or comments, just do hashtag the Winner's Circle Live, or you can do hashtag Ask Lisa. And the Winner's Circle Perspective is my video series, so please subscribe. So it is now time for me to introduce to some and present to others, as they say in church, a leader who is using her superpower to help empower the world. She influences outcomes. She accelerates growth of those who want to win with intention and those who want to win with courage. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Lisa Francoeur. She's a decorated blockchain technologist, a self-professed futurist, a co-founder and chief revenue officer of Crypto Tutors. She's a National Science Foundation award-winning profitable Web3 education startup. She has been dubbed the Oprah of technology. She's a sought-after thought leader in emerging technology, AI, blockchain, and Web3. She's graced the stages at Money 2020, Harvard Kennedy School, that's Harvard and Kennedy School, Carnegie Hall, Meta, A16Z's Culture Leadership Fund. We don't have all, you know what, how much time do we have? We don't have that much time, so I can't keep on going, but she's a proud Haitian American from Jeremy. Am I going to say that right? She embodies creativity and innovation. In 2024, she just became a Kennedy Center resident artist. Who does that? Debuting her poetry as part of her proprietary AI, also known as authentic intelligence mindset training, where she blends motivation and instruction. She's the founder of Fancyfied, as you can see her. She's fancy. Founder of Fancyfied, an innovation lab for mindset engineering. And whatever has your mind has you. She has delivered transformative training to Fortune 500 companies like LinkedIn, Meta, Microsoft, pioneering the intersection of technology, humanity, and art. She's a three-peat triathlete who
Find me.
want to predict the future, create it. She's also don't know how to wait until I introduce her. She wants to jump in here. She's ranked number 30 of the list of top 50 most influential people in crypto. Number five, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 7 crypto female CEOs. And she's driving innovation in 3.0. In my words, and I'm going to take 30 more seconds and tell you what I think of her. In addition to her bio, I've known Lisa for maybe 8 years or so. She's smart, she's clever, she's quick, she's ambitious, she's accomplished, she's creative, she's relentless, she's generous, she's really fit. She's future forward. She's a student of the world and a teacher to the world. She's a fashionista. She's resilient and she's a constant learner. Please welcome my daughter, sister, mother, friend, all in one, and fellow Miami resident, Lisa Fancyfied Francoeur. And some of you all will know that she's about crypto and Bitcoin and all that. So some of that is going to be discussed today. But what I really want you to also to understand is that she's a CEO of her life. She takes control. She never settles for the status quo and she never accepts no. So let's welcome Lisa Francoeur. Let's go.
Oh my gosh. I mean, wow. I am extremely humbled. It is not lost on me that I am interacting with one of the people that I admire, but aspire to make proud. And Daphne Jones, I promise you, you are a role model and you're someone who has set the bar so high that beyond ambition is aspiration. And I aspire to emulate the playbook, like the things that you've mentioned about me are representative of the inspiration that each time I interact with you, I see you doing all the amazing things. I draw so much inspiration that fuels my engine to do the perceivably in many instances impossible. So thank you.
Oh, that's great. Well, back at you, my sister, mother, daughter.
All the things, all the things. One thing that is for certain is we are different expressions of the same spirit.
Yeah, first of all, I hope I said your name correctly. It looks French, which speaks to your Haitian background. Did I say your name correctly, Francoeur?
It's Francoeur. It's pronounced Francoeur, which means honest, pure heart in French, like the actual translation of it. But often, just to make it easy for people, I will just say Francoeur is fine. So you did great.
Well, so because of your Haitian background, tell us where you've been. Tell us your upbringing, your roots. Who was Lisa?
Well, I'll tell you who she was is who she is and who she will be. And to your point about roots, wherever I am, I'm there. And so what I mean by that is I am a proud Haitian American and always lead with revolution is encoded in my DNA. And it's interesting. We're having this conversation in the midst of Haitian Heritage Month. We're having this conversation 2 days or so after Haitian Flag Day. But one of the characteristics that I think is most compelling about my heritage is that we successfully revolted against a colonial power. We are the only country to be formed by slaves that said enough was enough and were able to, in battle, emancipate themselves. And so with that comes a very revolutionary mentality. And I know we'll get into all of the disruptive areas that I play in, from technology to being a 5-peat. Now I completed my 5th triathlon on Sunday. We'll get into all of the areas of disruption in relation to the places and spaces that I play in. But I think the key takeaway is I am very, connected to my roots, and I feel very committed and obligated to honoring the legacy of my forefathers and mothers by operating in a space of championing disruption in ways that democratize access to freedom in all the ways.
That revolutionary spirit is, I think, how you carry yourself through life. And the fact that things were not accessible to Haitians or Haiti, you are that word democratizing, giving access to, even though your country didn't always have access, you had to take access and revolutionize the ability to have access. You are doing that freely, well, maybe not freely, but you're doing it openly and willingly, helping people understand more about how they can be the CEO of their life, helping them understand more about what life has to offer, and don't just sit back watching, participate. And that's who you are. You participate in life. So you were a child model. At 3 years old, yeah. I mean, they're gonna know everything. I mean, well, they're not gonna know everything. That's to share with them the multifaceted kaleidoscope of of fibers that make up this rug or this.
The tapestry, the tapestry.
So one of the things that was important was you were a 3-year-old model. How did that shape your, in a good way, or maybe, or however you might want to call it, to be able to be on stages everywhere, to speak, to produce, to inspire? Is there a relationship between your modeling and where you are today?
Yeah, I think that that's a great question. It's an interesting question. It's not a question that I'm asked often, but as I think about what are some of the most profound contributing factors to why I am how I am, I think that that is definitely, an example of the way that I've been molded. And so I think the thing about modeling now, full disclosure, my sister was the older sister. She's 7 years older than me. She was the one who got discovered. And, when I was born, it was sort of like, well, naturally, Lisa's going to model as well. Except my mother will attest to this. I just had this, I was very, I had a strong sense of self from like the moment I came out, like in the womb. She was like, you're always moving and shaking. And I knew you were going to do something because like you couldn't wait to get out. And I was like, basically, so to the point around being 2-3 years old, modeling, there is a selling aspect to modeling because you go on auditions and to secure the job, there are other, models, that you're competing with. And I think those experiences and that exposure so early on in my life taught me principles that have transcended the ages. And selling, the notion of selling is an example of that. I think the ability to have the confidence to speak and to not be afraid to stand in your truth and stand in your conviction. Like these are all characteristics that I didn't realize at such an early age were being developed. And I was being primed to do the things that I'm doing and that I've done. And I don't necessarily recommend that people put their kids in like modeling and whatever. But, I also had a job, right? So like there were outcomes associated with success in that industry. So, from the time more or less that I was born, the notion of earning potential and value, those were, intrinsic in my life. So, yeah.
I talk about, Lisa, when I'm on stage or whatever, is that there's 3 stages for growth, and you have to first know yourself, then you have to continually, relentlessly grow yourself, and then be willing to boldly show yourself. You've been able to know, grow, and show yourself from a very young age, so that you continue on in your life. And when you talk about salesmanship, that's entrepreneurship. That's being the CEO at a 3-year-old level, a CEO of your runway and CEO of that. So
one other thing I wanted to add about that, Daphne, and I think that this is also a key distinction, is that notion of sense of self. My mom will tell you that I was very, how do you say, like I knew what I wanted from a very, like, as long as I can remember. And she had to ask me, do you feel like working today? And there will be times, I'm 3, there will be times where I'd be like, no. So I'll also highlight the fact that there was, in my understanding of what I wanted, what I didn't want, what I liked, what I didn't like. Having those experiences and the agency, I was cultivating agency because I would be like, no, I'm not working today. And if she made me work, brought me to the auditions, I'd wall out. And it was a bad look for everybody. So she learned, essentially to not, if I said no, I meant no. And I'm not saying like I was talking back to my mom or whatever, but I just had such a strong sense of self. If I wanted to play, I was not in work mode, I wouldn't perform, I wouldn't produce. So for whatever that's worth.
Great. Well, I'm going to advance a little bit and let's talk about your professional experience, yesterday and today. Who did you work for in your corporate life? You were in corporate for a bit. Can you talk about that and what was your catalyst for moving from that to where you currently are, which is many places today?
Yeah, when I graduated college, I have a degree in communications. Can you hear me okay?
North Carolina, right?
Excuse me?
North Carolina. Where'd you graduate?
Oh, the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. Yeah. So when I graduated, I graduated my degree in communications, and I have a minor in a concentration in PR and a minor in textile designs and marketing. I mentioned my degree because when I graduated, my vision was to be a professional fashion stylist. And I'm from New York. I went to school in North Carolina, but I went back to New York immediately after graduation. And in going back home, it was easy for me to, easy air quote, but to be embedded in the entertainment industry. And so I kind of hit the ground running because I have a very eclectic style. So it was very understandable that I was a stylist. Now, the thing was, I wasn't making enough income styling. And even though it was my dream, I had to pivot. And because I wasn't producing the type of income that was commensurate with affording a lifestyle in New York, especially certainly not one that I was wanting, I had to switch it up. So that ultimately led me to accept a job in tech, the startup ecosystem in New York City back in 2008. I'm dating myself, but 2008 is really how long I've been in the game. And enterprise software sales, that was how I cut my teeth in the industry. And, I worked for a number of startups, some of which have been, acquired. The startup tech ecosystem in New York is called Silicon Alley. And, after 7 years in the startup scene, from working at search engine optimization firms to, mobile engagement and mobile optimized, software companies, LinkedIn came calling. And it was so interesting because I had gotten recruited on the LinkedIn platform for other job opportunities, but I never thought that LinkedIn would recruit me for LinkedIn. And this is the thing, right? You miss, of course, 1,000% of the shots that you don't take. And when I received that email, my initial reaction was, haha, it's a ruse. I thought it was a joke. LinkedIn's recruiting me for LinkedIn on LinkedIn. It just sounded crazy. However, I was like, let me explore. And that changed the trajectory of my life, Daphne, because by virtue of taking that conversation and, inevitably landing the job in 2014, my recruiting, I was recruited to LinkedIn. I started my career in 2015, and it was like being kind of catapulted to the NFL, NBA of high tech. And this was before Microsoft acquired LinkedIn, which happened a year after I started. This was before the $1 billion acquisition of Lynda, which is now LinkedIn Learning. This is even LinkedIn was publicly traded at that time. So I had never worked for a publicly traded company either. So there were so many new things. And I didn't come from the pedigree of the prototype. Okay, Lisa's that woman. I love
that woman.
I'm just willing to take chances, you know what I mean? And just kind of have faith and let those leaps of faith become quantum. But in effect, Daphne, I was able to rise the ranks at LinkedIn, selling enterprise software. And I just became someone that was known for also employee empowerment at the organization. I introduced Fancyfied Fridays there. So I was even within that domain an intrapreneur that was building and bolstering their brand, not with the intention of bolstering their brand, but with the intention of adding value,
Right.
addressing an issue of driving employee empowerment. So I'll pause there.
Right. Right. So, and you learned a lot, clearly. It was like a stepping stone for you, but you already had a foundation of growth and strength and sense of self, and you just learned a lot and took it in, and then you were able to move on. What made you move on from LinkedIn? What was the catalyst?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me also say that the governance, I think LinkedIn's leadership, particularly at that time, it was a golden age. It was a golden era. Shout out to Jeff Weiner. I think he's now the chairman of the board of LinkedIn, but he was the CEO at the time. Just the way that he led the organization, and we'll get into vision, mission, values. But one thing that was impressed upon me as far as the way that that organization succeeded was how much they were invested in the culture. Like to this day, I can still recite LinkedIn's values: take intelligent risks, be open, honest, and constructive. Relationships matter. Like, act like an owner. And so, to your point,
Yes.
even in these corporate environments, above and beyond just being in a sales capacity, which has entrepreneurial characteristics in and of itself, being within these organizational structures exposed me to a playbook around scaling, what is now a multi-billion-dollar entity. And to also, in a sales capacity, contribute to the bottom line, have a direct correlation to what I'm contributing to the organization and its profitability. Like, those types of experiences really help me better understand what it means to be a great entrepreneur. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, and those are CEO notes and nuggets that she's dropping, y'all. So entrepreneur, when you look at driving business inside the company, on the culture, those are things that CEOs always worry about, is making sure that you've got a great culture. Entrepreneurs is really important. So let's break down who you are and what you do, because I really want people to get an idea of what's possible, because you are an example. You are a role model for many people. So you're the Chief Revenue Officer and co-founder of Successful Crypto Tutors. You're a triathlete, you're an artist at the Kennedy Center. So let's just start with those three, and we can go on to more. I'm going to ask you about Fancyfied as well. Talk about Crypto Tutors. It feels like this is where you put a lot of your energy, and it's because of this that I think you've been coined the Oprah of tech. Can you talk about where Crypto Tutors started? Why is it? And what are some of the benefits that you're seeing people enjoy because of Crypto Tutors?
Well, I'll tell you this. I have always been a futurist, and I think that just being in the world of tech and now emerging technology, I feel as though if you want to architect and engineer the future, Fancyfied says you have to manifest it, which is a hybrid of manifestation and finesse, which is the actual toil, the actual effort, the actual work to bring the vision to fruition. So with respect to Crypto Tutors, about 5 years ago, we are in the midst of the pandemic. It's about June, July of 2020. And Nina, my Blankenship, my co-founder and best friend, she is in Orlando at the time, and I am in the Bay Area. And of course, the world is just like in a very precarious position, and there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of like what's actually happening smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. And, there were a number of key metrics that we were looking at, from the disproportionately high layoff rates for
People of
underrepresented
color.
communities.
Yeah.
Exactly. There were also, a lack of a safety net, right? Like, a lot of folks were having to also transition to a digital environment, which they had never done before. So there was a lot of friction and upskilling that had to happen.
Yeah.
So in retrospect, as we are assessing and auditing and synthesizing this information, and I'm someone, as I mentioned, is very much about empowerment. My values, Daphne, super important: uplift, empower, inspire, unite, enlighten, and heal. I have a vision of scaling empowerment globally. So Nina's like, look, Lisa, in light of what's happening, I think it would be very good to introduce you to our now co-founder, our third co-founder, Moeti Nubi. I'm Haitian American, as you know. He's Zimbabwe American. And, you know, she's like, I think you guys would really hit it off. He's very much about financial empowerment. You're very much about empowerment holistically. And I just think a conversation would be really awesome. So both he and I were very reluctant. And to Nina's credit, you know, she's so adamant about like connecting dots. And we get on a call, Daphne, and it's literally a meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
And Moeti is explaining in this conversation, he's like, look, Lisa, you, Nina, you're in tech. So I'm sure that you're watching how the trends are, you know, like what are the trends? And he's like, look at money. And we were like, interesting. What do you mean look at money? He's like, look at money. He's like, how long does it take for you to send money back to your family in Haiti? And how expensive is it to do it? And I was like, good question, because Haiti, the GDP, 20% of the GDP comes from remittances. It's a significant, substantial amount. But when you're sending money through the Western Unions and the MoneyGrams, there is the processing fees and the time that it takes. It's a very antiquated system. And so he's like, imagine being able to send the money instantaneously with no middleman. No middleman and a fraction of the costs.
Yeah.
I was like, well, of course that makes sense, because like you're doing it better. And he was like, and that is Bitcoin. And so the way he connected the value of Bitcoin was addressing a real world problem to me personally and my family. And I thought, wow, like, because I know globally the remittance world is a very, like, a lot of people send money back home. So that kind of got the wheels in my mind turning. And he said, furthermore, he started to unpack this notion of decentralized finance. And to your point around not having a middle person, you know, intervening and like collecting a fee and what have you.
Yeah, for no value add.
Delaying the process, etc. You know, all of that is eliminated. And so again, in the vein of like necessity being the mother of invention, it really piqued our interest, because we were like, okay, like clearly that's a great example of how you can do money better. What else can you do? And this is where the, you know, call started to get very interesting, Daphne, because it evolved from Bitcoin to stablecoin, which is very ironic in light of the time that we're in, because the Senate just passed the first piece of crypto legislation called the Genius Act, in relation to stablecoins. So stablecoins, for those that may not know, are they're a digital currency that is collateralized by another asset, like more or less one for one. So for example, USDC, Circle, it's the company name is Circle. USDC is a stable coin for the dollar. So it's one for one with the dollar. So my point is, he introduces this notion of a stable coin. And he's like, if you lock your crypto on this platform, a process that's called staking, which means that you're helping fortify the exchange, they will give you a portion of the fees and you can actually earn interest. And as a result of that, it will compound. So me and Nina were like, bet, make money while we sleep, say.
Right.
So it wasn't just about Bitcoin, but it was like this new asset class that nobody was really talking about. And for the record, in terms of credentialing, Moeti has a PhD in statistics. He trades utilities for a Fortune 100. He has been in crypto since 2013. He had the first penny auction to accept Bitcoin as payment. So literally our first crypto tutor. And when he was explaining these things, it was like mind blowing. So Nina and I were like, how do we get started? So from that conversation, we attempted to do, in his mind, which were, you know, a couple of steps to buy the Bitcoin and then buy the stable coin and then stake the stable coin, which is a lot more sophisticated than we'll get into today. But
Sure.
The point is, we couldn't do it. We had a lot of difficulty. So we go to YouTube University, Daphne, and we try to onboard ourselves. And that's when it hit us. There's a lot of bad actors. There's a lot of people who are shilling, you know, grifters, so to speak, bad actors and so on. And we were like, who's actually driving education, driving the onboarding?
Yes, yeah.
In a responsible way, trustworthy way, etc. And as we did our market research, we were like, hold up, you're telling me that no one is owning this space? So naturally, going back to the notion of necessity being the mother of invention,
That's it, yes.
Nina's a LinkedIn learning instructor. as well, enterprise sales. She also has a finance degree. So all of this was like making sense to her. I explained to you who Moetti is. Outside of enterprise sales, I've developed corporate trainings for Salesforce, Microsoft, etc. So my point is we decided to combine all of our superpowers, and that was the genesis of Crypto Tutors. And the interesting thing was we took our enterprise sales experience, this is another key takeaway. We took our enterprise sales experience, which was transferable, and we launched a Web3 B2B education company. So we went to corporate and we were like, do your employees know how to leverage this technology? Are they proficient? Even if it was Cash App, in which case we had an enterprise-wide partnership where every employee had access to our e-learning content. We would conduct live facilitations, and from employee development and workforce development within corporate, these companies started to realize, well, we can leverage Crypto Tutors to engage with our customer communities. And so we started to go on nationwide tours, leading live facilitations for college students and residents. And it's just kind of been,
Yeah. That's absolutely incredible. And guys, hope you all are getting these nuggets about how do you have an idea? How do you try to fill a gap? But then when you fill a gap, then you find adjacent spaces that allow you to even scale even more. You're not just dealing with individuals, you're dealing with companies, you're dealing with their customers. And when you think about technology, it's not just about the technology, it's about how it affects lives. How quickly are people, going back to the early days of crypto, with you, how quickly could your folks in Haiti get money? There's so much opportunity within this Bitcoin. So what is it that, how would you describe for people who want to know more about crypto tutors, not necessarily the classes, but the classes? How do they learn more about how to let Bitcoin be used in their lives and crypto be used in their lives? How do they do that?
I'm really happy you asked that, because in 2023, we applied to the National Science Foundation, and the intent was to secure a grant that would allow us to develop our tech stack, that would allow us to develop the technical infrastructure to truly scale education in a way that enables folks, whether they are students to seasoned professionals, to be to understand, one, based on hobbies and interests. For example, what are the career titles that are appropriate for me? You know what I mean? Like, this is such a new industry. People don't necessarily know that there are community managers, for example. That's non-technical. However, you have to have an understanding of the protocols, for instance, to be an effective community manager, which is very much about building and galvanizing and mobilizing people around a particular project. So I highlight that because what we realize is that most people don't know what they don't know. How are you going to think that this is an industry that you can secure a six-figure job if you've never heard of the industry, let alone a title?
Right. That's right.
Connecting those dots led us to ultimately build a Web3 career assessment platform, because thankfully we were able to secure, as you mentioned earlier, a grant from the National Science Foundation, which was our phase 1 grant. Now, here's the thing about the NSF. It is synonymous with technological innovation that has funded the likes of Microsoft, Tesla, Apple. So it's known for innovations that don't exist. And so when we submitted our application, it was very clear that there wasn't an entity that was addressing the issue of an industry that is adding 40 million jobs to the workforce within the next 5 years.
Right.
So we were able to launch a platform called DeFi, DEFI, All Odds, which is a double entendre, paying homage to decentralized finance. It's actually a triple entendre, paying homage to decentralized finance, but also the acronym DeFi, DAO, All Odds, is another crypto reference called a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization. Not to get too technical, but my point is that, Daphne, how we're addressing the issue of responsibly onboarding the masses is that we've built a patent pending hub for emerging tech workforce readiness and development. We call it a Duolingo meets LinkedIn, because in learning these, knowing what the right jobs are, learning these skills, you got to be hired. Who are the companies that are hiring? Yeah. So all of that is included, and we just secured our second phase 2 grant to build out those other facets of
so what should we be staying tuned for? How do we get how does the average person, like Monday morning, what is the one thing that they could do Monday morning to be able to get better understanding? Because when you understand more, you can control more and you can react more and define your next steps. What is the one thing that they should do Monday morning to get better control and understanding?
Well, okay, so we
Will
all,
you all, are you all ready for any business like that to help educate the masses?
yeah, I mean, visit defyalodds.xyz. That's the homepage of the platform. We're accepting users. We invite people to go through the assessment, right? Like
Yeah,
the intent of the direction Crypto Tutors is moving in is, as I said, to really address the fact that people don't know about these job opportunities in the
right.
platform. Daphne, we have 60,000 plus jobs highlighted. So even if people want to just see what are the jobs in this industry, they can
They
get
can learn,
they
yeah.
can get a
And then
flavor of
that'll
it.
help them get into education and learn more, and then aspire to do those things. You were just with Congress last week. What did y'all talk about?
The Genius Act, coincidentally, which
Genius Act.
yes, it's such a how do you say, full circle moment, in that when I got introduced to crypto, yes, Bitcoin, but stable coins was actually how we entered the marketplace.
Okay,
And, 5 years ago, that might not sound like a long time, but in this industry where, innovation moves at lightning speed, that's like, we're OGs now. So I say that to say, Daphne, we've gone to Congress, Crypto Tutors, a few times to advocate for good stewardship in relation to how crypto is managed. We're still talking about an asset class that doesn't have a clear, regulatory framework. So we've
right,
been, as an industry, also in partnership with Stand with Crypto. Shout out to our people at Stand with Crypto. Coinbase has, brought us to meet with legislators, not just to advocate for pro crypto legislation, but to also humanize the industry and say, guess what? Crypto tutors, we are hiring, we have employees. We want to grow our business in the United States. We don't want innovation to be driven offshore. And
right,
that's what has happened in previous
right,
administration. So by virtue of being able to have these conversations with legislators and educate them on the work that we're doing
right.
and just what we see of the industry, and
Okay.
help them close the knowledge gap for their own
Knowledge gap, yeah.
personal
And I just hope that the attack on education does not continue because it seems like there's a people don't want us to know a lot about things. So I'm not gonna digress there, but that's just the point. Sometimes education doesn't seem to be a good idea for some administrations. So talk about you're a triathlete because I definitely wanted to get into that. So tell me about your triathlete and more importantly, because people understand that you what is it? You run, you bike, and you swim, but
you
you also
swim, you bike,
starting
and you run.
something, huh?
You swim, you bike, and you run.
And then you run. So you've started a motivational challenge for people to try. Can you talk about that and where that came from?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I got into triathlons, and I also think that this is super important in terms of the development of the right mindset and establishing mental models that enable you to, in my case, increase capacity on demand. So, as a founder, you're dealing with a 24/7 situation. There's always going to be things to do. And so, you have to be able to have the stamina and the endurance as a founder to um, do what needs to get done and to
Yep.
draw upon energy when you're not necessarily getting the feedback from the market that you want to fuel that engine. Typically
Yeah.
we are able to do more when we're encouraged to do it, but when we're facing opposition, it's very challenging to be like, keep pushing.
Yeah, you
So
got to pull it from somewhere.
you got
Yeah.
to pull it from somewhere. And the thing is, I think how you do anything is how you do everything. And so in July of 2023, it dawned on me that triathlons would be a great practice and a great model for me to prove to myself that I had the capacity to increase my capacity. And because I was knowing, like, I was aware of, okay, I in growing this business, it's going to require me to become more than I am. Like when you're an entrepreneur, you're constantly faced with situations that force you to become more than you are. And you sink or you swim. And, you were just singing gospel songs earlier. And I'm like, beyond sink or swim, let's walk on this water. And
That's right.
walking on the
That's
water
right.
is going to require a level of unprecedented faith.
Faith.
So to the point around why I got into triathlons and what it does for me, this idea of building capacity, it has become a lifestyle for me, where in doing these races, Daphne, I've mindset engineered. I've created a new realm of existence by virtue of putting myself in a situation where it's a very dangerous sport. Obviously, when you're swimming, biking, and running, there are a lot of things that can go wrong. It's competitive, so you're around other people. So the level of situational awareness that you have to develop to gauge what's happening around you is so important. Again, these are characteristics that as entrepreneurs, like, you got to read the room. You got to be able to assess in totality what's happening, irrespective of whether or not you want to believe it. What is actually so? You have to exercise a level of objective analysis that'll enable you to make good decisions. So Daphne, to make a long story less long, I got into triathlons for that reason, and it dawned on me that if I can help people use the idea of trying, and in this context, trying is the trifecta. Trying is mastery of soul, mind, and body. I'm not telling people that they need to do triathlons. I'm saying, what is your triathlon? What is going to enable you to push beyond your comfort zone in a manner that you're able to glean insights that you can redirect in other areas of your life, in effect creating a formula for success that will condition you to go beyond. It's like, to be what you've never been, you've got to do what you've never done.
That's right. Right. I hope y'all getting these nuggets. I'm telling you, it is so, and she has taken a concept and then she weaves it into other parts of her life. When you think about an entrepreneur, a CEO has to have all of their senses activated. They got to see, read the room, know what's going on. But she's not saying go be a triathlete. She wants you to try something. When I, TRI or TRY?
TRI, because try signifies three. And so, as I said, mastery of soul, mind, body.
Soul, mind, is okay. Right. So if you don't take that leap, you will never reach. And so Lisa is encouraging us to try.
Yeah.
And
okay. Well, while we're waiting for Daphne to come back, to the point around the Fancyfied Try Challenge, my intent is to invite people into the party of excellence. Another thing that I want to highlight is, I mentioned before, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I just kind of have this way of being where I'm like, if I can be excellent in every statistical category, then why would I not try?
I am sorry. Did I lose you? I might have lost you for a moment.
Well, we lost you, I think, but I was telling them about.
Can you hear me? Can you all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
That, I don't know why.
I can hear you both.
Okay, but I can't hear. Okay, now I can hear Rashawn. I can hear Lisa now. Okay, apologize, guys. Lisa, go talk again. Let me hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Okay, great, perfect. Okay, go ahead. So I was just kind of wanted to sum up that I love the concept about try, and how do people learn more about trying?
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I developed a curriculum on a platform called WAP, where I introduced the concept of mindset engineering. And one of the things I wanted to highlight is that I've conceptualized a mental framework called authentic intelligence. And I'm a firm believer in bringing your whole self to life. So when I talk about authentic intelligence, just to explain it to people so that it will hopefully resonate and make the most sense. The premise of authentic intelligence is that each of us has a unique genetic makeup. And I believe that as a result of having unique genetic makeup, we all have unique gifts and talents. And when we have clarity on what those unique gifts and talents are, and we can package them into a unique value proposition, that's when we can start to contribute in a professional and personal capacity in a positive and constructive way. Those are the parameters or guardrails, if you will. So I know that that's not something that people just know offhand what to do, how to do it, and so on. And so the concept of mindset engineering stems from that, the understanding of how your mind is an operating system. And as a result, we need upgrades. So the idea of authentic intelligence is to cultivate a mindset where your unique gifts and talents are packaged, commoditized, and offered to the world with the intent of adding value personally and professionally. And so with the Fancyfied Try Challenge, I have a curriculum that it's very short. You can go on my Instagram and you can click on the link, and right now it's free. So you gotta get at
right
it.
now.
The
Yeah, that's great.
Instagram. Sorry, what was that?
Great. Yeah, I said, yeah, for now it's free. That's right.
For now.
Tell me, who is Fancified? Who is Fancified? And is Fancified like gender neutral? Is it a he or she? Is it a they? Who is Fancified?
That's such a loaded question because I think I self-identify as Fancyfied, but from a business standpoint, Fancyfied is an innovation lab of,
Okay.
of mindset engineering.
Right.
And, when you talk about all the things that I've done, I'm a triathlete, I'm a founder, I'm a Kennedy Center artist, Kennedy Center fellow, I'm a poet, like all these different disciplines that I've all of these, I'm a multidisciplinarian, but like to excel at these different disciplines at a very high level, if you function at a very high level, it's not an easy thing to do, but it is something that is indicative of the principles that I'm sharing and the frameworks that I'm sharing. And the genesis of Fancyfied, Daphne, was I was a fashion stylist, as I mentioned. It's probably hard to believe. But I was a fashion stylist.
All right, Diva. Yes, Diva. Go ahead. Yes.
No, I mean, like, I'm just very eclectic, and you can even see from like my little home, I'm very artistic. But point being, people used to call me Fancy Pants, like back in the day, like that was my nickname. And eventually people stopped calling me Fancy Pants. They started calling me Fancy for short, and it was on brand because I'm just like always I'm like fancy,
Yeah.
So from fancy to Fancyfied, what ended up happening was I would work at these tech companies, and my colleagues would be like, "Oh, can you dress me for this or that?" And one of my colleagues, when she came out of like the fitting room after we had done like the accessories and the gown for the scala she was going to, all the things, I was like, she comes out of the fitting room and I'm like, "Oh my God, you've been Fancyfied." And I thought to myself, lightning in a bottle. I was not the one that said it. It just kind of came out of my mouth. And I was like, where did that come from? And that notion, that epiphany of Fancyfied has evolved from a like styling company where you dress in a manner that makes you feel most empowered to a now mindset engineering, lab of, innovation lab of mindset engineering. And me as the person Fancyfied, I think that it is like the name the name that I feel like my soul chose for itself. It's like the most indicative, authentically intelligent version of me.
Great. And so speaking of authentic intelligence, you also left brain, right brain, you got it all. You done raps at colleges and universities as you connect with some of the students there. You also do poetry. Can you do a short, I know we have like 10 minutes left. Can you do like a short rap or a poem, one of your creations just for us so we can get inside your mind?
Yeah, of course. I will do both. Just to also like explain why we write raps about crypto. We understand that the comprehension and retention levels associated with entertainment, as you learn, it increases the comprehension and retention levels. And so it is very, kind of calculated in that we're using music in this case as a means of helping people wrap their heads around a very complex and very technical and just difficult new like industry, new asset class, etc. So this one, okay. Bitcoiner BTC, $1 trillion CAP. Don't sleep on cryptocurrency. Just make some money while you sleep. Yeah, it's a $3 trillion market cap for me. It's a wave, but this ain't no GameStop or AMC. DeFi is where you need to be. Why? Because centralized systems keep them fees high. Talking knee high, maybe even neck high, but we fly. Learn to invest and you'll see why. Your money, your time, don't waste it. Buy it, trade it, stake it, you made it. No mo to FOMO, to the moon we go. YOLO.
That is great. And you do that to music, or do you do that
Yeah,
acapella?
you could go
I
on
love it.
Spotify. You
I
could go
love
on
it. I love
Apple
it.
Music, and you can look up Crypto Tutors, and you will see all of our music there. But
That's
Daphne,
awesome.
one thing I did want to say is that I'm a poet, and from the raps come, the poems are where the raps start from.
Yes.
And one thing I just wanted to on the poem side share with folks is, this is called "Do You Believe in Miracles?" And I think it's very apropos in light of all the things happening that would make us question or
Yes.
maybe even say no to that question. Do you believe in miracles? So, do you believe in miracles? I trust what I sense more than what I see. My miracle is on time. My faith funds me until it arrives. So I jump. When leaps of faith are quantum.
Wow. Wow. Leaps of faith. Did I just lose? Did I just lose Lisa?
Only those can see you. Yeah, okay, I'm back.
There you go. Okay, there you are. That's great. And the word quantum is another level that we'll talk about at some point about
Emerging
quantum.
tech. You see how it goes?
Right, emerging tech, existing tech, new tech, emerging tech. That's great. So, what is your purpose, Lisa? We talked about some of the things that you're doing. How does that all fit together? And for you to realize I am living and walking in my purpose. What is that?
Okay, well, I mentioned before that I have a vision of scaling empowerment globally, and my mission is to help people harness the power of positivity, authenticity, and unity to create new and favorable possibilities for themselves and others. And I mentioned the scaling empowerment globally because that falls within the work that Fancyfied does. But the practical application of scaling empowerment globally is financial empowerment.
Yeah.
And when you are gainfully employed, when you learn about how to harness technology to create your own economies, that right there is examples of empowerment. So this is how my vision, mission, values serve as the compass upon which I navigate life professionally and personally.
Is by helping to scale empowerment globally in whatever way that might be. And right now, we're looking certainly from a financial perspective, because without money, there's very little power.
Yeah, exactly. But also, your mindset is what ultimately dictates, what you can accomplish or not accomplish. And it's like, if you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right.
That's right. Your mindset, whatever has your mind, has you. Okay, good. So you seem to be fearless. You dress boldly. You're not afraid to speak truth to power. You start up companies. You push yourself. You drive and find capacity in places that people only dream about. Are you not afraid? Are you ever not afraid?
I'm always afraid. And I think that that's an important, call out, because it's not about eradicating fear as much as it is about being courageous and acting in the face of fear. Being being afraid is just a part of the human experience. We're biologically engineered to have fear as a means of protecting us against danger. So I don't think, Daphne, the goal should be to not have fear or be even fearless. I don't think that that personally exists. But I believe wholeheartedly that if you act in the face of fear, whatever you're acting in the face of becomes less and less fearful. You become less and less fearful.
Right. That's great. Absolutely right. And you'll have new situations that come up all the time, but you've won before, you'll win again. You face the fear with courage, and you'll find a way that it just becomes a part of who you are. You're not fearless, you're courageous. Let me ask you, uh-huh. I was going to ask you a quick lightning round. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
That's a hard question. I'm not gonna lie. Um, You know, honestly, I would probably say Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and a lot of people know Toussaint Louverture as the the face of the revolution, the Haitian Revolution, which Louverture was, but he ended up getting captured by Napoleon, and so he wasn't able to see the revolution through to completion. And Jean-Jacques Dessalines, on the other hand, was a slave that just rose in the ranks and was able to uh, ultimately successfully oust the French.
Right.
There were so many obstacles associated with that, but also the paradigm, right? The paradigm to decide that this is not right, and we
Yes.
believe it's not right so much so we're willing to die for it.
They took action and died.
And you know, clearly they changed the world. And so even going back to my revolutionary and Haitian ancestry, I would say that he would be very interesting because the in the vein of defying all odds, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, General Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who ended up being the first president of Haiti, I would be very curious to learn about how did you cultivate that mentality? How did you galvanize people? How did you strategize and militaristically navigate without having any no real educational training? So,
well, I get the sense that you find a way to use resources. You find a way to find resources. You find a way to have a mindset that says, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to go after it. I'm going to find a way to win. So I think you would be having a dinner with equals that already, but you're in this era and they were in that era, but you're both resilient, resource gatherers, etc. So you'd be in good company. Last question I
look
have.
at my nails. I don't know if you can see my nails, but speaking of generals, it's Haitian Heritage Month, and so this is to commemorate the Haitian generals, and then this is like women who are the backbone of the culture, and this is like my Haitian roots, and it says Haiti on my nails, and it has roots, so I'm like very much tapped in.
You're all in there. You're all in there. Okay. Well, Lisa, I'm going to thank you for, I didn't even get to half of my questions. You have such rich responses and thoughtful and deep, and I so appreciate you. If people want to reach out and to learn about Fancyfied and learn about, mindset engineering, how do they do that?
Yeah, you can go to fancyfied.com, submit a form, if you want to connect. Fancyfied I'm very big on Instagram. You can obviously LinkedIn. I have like such an affinity for LinkedIn. And you asked me before, like, why did you leave? And it was like, sometimes you just have to reconcile that where when you leap into the future, like you gotta be willing to take that leap of faith. That's why I went about So I Jump. So obviously follow me and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very, very, as you can see, probably, I hope, warm and inviting. And I just believe that if you want to predict the future, you like I said, have to manifest it. And so if you're about that life and want to unify and empower and uplift and enlighten and heal and scale empowerment globally, pull up. I'm not just on the mindset engineering empowerment front, but also, I'm pretty technical. I'm a technologist as well. So check out what we're doing at defyallodds.xyz, cryptotutors.com. And last thing, Daphne, is I mentioned this earlier. Crypto Tutors organizes the world's largest inclusion conference in Web3 called Crypto for the Culture. And you can go to cryptofortheculture.com. It's a thousands and thousands of people tune in to this virtual conference for the past 5 years. But we curate an experience where the brightest minds in the industry speak to how these technologies are being implemented today and what the future holds. And that encompasses, what is Bitcoin, all the way to how are decentralized identities enabling portability with your identity in the world
Identity
of Web
and
three.
your data. Yes.
The last thing I'll
And-
say to you is the third iteration of the internet, and this is one of the most important parts. Third iteration of the internet is the read, write, own era, which means that ownership is what we're wanting to impress upon people, like ownership in the form of what you mentioned, data commoditization. We didn't really get into all of that, but cryptotutors.com, crypto for the culture, and me.
Absolutely. So if you all want to be future ready and ready for the future, you got to connect with Lisa and Fancyfied and Crypto for the Culture. This is where you learn. This is where you can learn how to do
Yay,
and
Claudia!
become. All right, Claudia, this is great. Thank you guys for being here. Lisa, hang on for a second. We're going to do a little commercial for what's coming up next. Hang on, guys. Rashawn, you can take it away. And so Samir Samal is going to be joining me June 18th. He is the CFO of a global technology company, and he's also a founder of Girl Power Talks. So he has a passion for girls, and which represents our pipeline for the future. So let's join me and Samir next month, June 18th. That'll be our last one before our summer break. For those of you that are interested in getting on boards, getting ready to serve on boards, you will learn everything you need to know if you attend our masterclass July 11th and 12th or July 25th and 26th. You're welcome to get this QR code. We're going to be advertising it on LinkedIn and other forums as well. We appreciate you so much. We hope that you will like, comment, and share. And we're just so happy that Lisa Fancyfied was able to grace us tonight. We should have had 3 hours with her, but we didn't have it. But we got 3 hours worth of content. And we hope that she helps to change your life. And welcome to the Winner's Circle. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Lisa.
Do I get off now?